I'm Shomo Data, and this is Built to Trust. Today's episode is the hang glider perspective, how leaders switch altitudes on purpose so strategy and execution actually meet in the middle. If episode 2 was why clarity beats intensity, and episode 3 was cadence that sustains clarity, this one is about the vantage point you use while you lead. Strategy at 30,000 feet sets intent and constraints. Execution at 300 feet ships the thing. Great leadership isn't living at one altitude. It's gliding between them deliberately, without stalling, wobbling, or crashing on final. When I first wrote about this years ago, I called it the hang glider approach, because hang gliders force you to feel physics. You don't have an engine to brute force your way out of bad decisions. You manage energy, pick lines, read wind, and commit to an approach in time to land with dignity. That's leadership under pressure. You can't scream more throttle and pretend the lift will appear. You work with the reality you have, conserve energy for the end, and flare at the right moment. Let's turn that into a practical operating system you can use Monday. What the two altitudes are for. 30,000 feet is where you frame intent and constraints. Why this matters now. Which levers are flexible, scope, spec, and which are fixed, safety, date, contract. What done means in outcomes, not tasks. What risks we already see, and how much risk we can afford. 300 feet is where you touch the interfaces, who owns which step and what good looks like in their hands. What the checklists and runbooks actually say, and whether they match reality. Where the seams are telemetry, tests, handoffs, on-call, the factory or staging environment. What will go wrong if we change course now? If you stay high, you'll be inspiring and useless. If you stay low, you'll be heroic and slow. The craft is switching altitudes with intent. 5 hang glider rules for managers. 1. Airspeed is life. In flight, you never trade away airspeed you'll need on final. In teams, airspeed is decision latency and feedback loop time. Keep your decision loops short. Fast reviews, fast no's, fast change notes when reality moves. A week of waiting kills more projects than a bad design. 2. Don't bank hard at low altitude. In a real glider, a steep bank close to the ground steals energy you can't get back. In delivery week, big scope or architecture changes are the same. Protect the last mile. If you discover a necessary change, declare a go-round, delay the landing, re-enter the pattern, or land the thin, safe slice and cue the change for the next cycle. 3. Read the air, not the brochure. Thermals, ridge lift, rotor, conditions change. In teams, vendor reliability shifts, a partner API degrades, hiring slips, a test range window moves. Your plan must be a living thing. Inspect it weekly. Update your baseline and risk posture openly. 4. Commit to an approach early enough to land well. Leaders who keep options open too long end up choosing too late. Choose your approach for this cycle. Which risk you'll burn down, which you'll accept, what you'll leave for after landing. Document it in one page. You'll land smoother and faster. 5. Flare, then stop flying. There is a moment to stop fiddling and land. In software or hardware, that's week 5, hardening, and week 6, demo/retro. You stabilize, soak, fix seams, present the truth, harvest learning, and reset the baseline. Then you take off again, no perpetual hover. The weekly altitude switching rhythm. Here's a simple, repeatable week that forces you to move between altitudes without whiplash. Monday, intent and constraints, 30,000 feet. Publish a one-page intent for each active stream. It can be the clear one-pager. Context, what changed since last week? Levers, which are fixed versus flexible. End state, done when X measured by Y, observed in Z. Accountability, driver/approver. Cadence. Runway, the next 2 milestones, what we will not do. This is not a slide deck. It's a small contract that re-anchors the team in what matters. Tuesday, floor walk, 300 feet. Get into the work. If you're remote, Floor walk means screens and logs. Sit with the on-call for 30 minutes, open the dashboards, read the test artifacts, look at the PRQ, click the checklist, ask what surprised you yesterday, and what is ugly but tolerated. You will discover one seam to fix that slides the whole week into place. Wednesday, decisions and design, 5,000 feet, dipping low. Hold the smallest possible review that closes one question. No pageantry, one doc, one decision, 45 minutes. Update the decision log, what, when, who, options, why. If you can't capture a decision in 5 lines, you didn't decide. Thursday, risk scan and runbooks, 300 to 3,000 feet. Open the risk list. Pick the top 3 by impact times probability. For each, either mitigate, task it, accept with a trigger, or avoid, change scope. Touch a runbook in the area most likely to bite you next week. If the runbook is stale, that's your risk. Friday, integration, truth plus narrative, both altitudes. Ship a short roll-up, numbers over adjectives. What moved, what slipped, what we changed, and why. Share one lesson at 30,000 feet. We're trading spec for schedule on X, and one at 300 feet. The soak test failed for this specific reason, and we added this guardrail. Close the loop with stakeholders. No surprises. Run that rhythm for 3 weeks in a row, and you will feel calmer because your team is no longer guessing which altitude you're at or why you parachute into details. You're predictable, and predictability is the quiet cousin of trust. The 10-line project explainer. If you can't explain a project in 10 lines an adult can read in 1 minute, you don't own it. Use this template, drop it in your Monday intent. Problem we're solving and the consequence of doing nothing. Why now? Constraint, opportunity, or risk. Owner, driver, and approver. End state. Done when X measured by Y observed in Z. 2 milestones with dates. M1 de-risk. M2 integrate. What we will not do this cycle. Explicit subtraction. Primary lever. Will pull if we slip, scope, or schedule. Top risk and the trigger that turns it into an issue. Stakeholders consulted versus informed. Review cadence and where the decision log lives. That's your flight plan. It keeps the nose level when the wind shifts. 2 truths and 1 risk. Make status impossible to fake. I like a weekly 2 truths and 1 risk update from each driver. 2 truths. Small, falsifiable facts. P95 latency dropped to 180 milliseconds after index change. 3 of 5 end-to-end rehearsal runs passed. 1 risk, a story with a trigger. Vendor X STK hangs at jitter, greater than 200 milliseconds. If we see greater than 3 hangs by Wednesday, we'll implement Watchdog A. No adjectives, no theater, just lift and drag, pre-flight and post-flight checklists. When a pilot clips into a hang glider, they run a pre-flight checklist aloud. You need the same for high-risk work. Keep it short and brutal. Pre-flight, before a major test or release. Acceptance criteria match reality and are visible. Rollback path tested in a sandbox. Alarms fire on the right signals, not vanity metrics. On-call roster posted, primary and backup acknowledged. Runbook time-stamped within the last 2 weeks. Owner named. Go, no-go criteria written in 1 paragraph. Decider named. Post-flight after a test or release. Did we meet the acceptance criteria? Show the evidence. If not, what surprised us? What one change will prevent that surprise next time? Who owns the change and by when? What will we stop doing because it didn't help? Rituals are boring by design. Boring wins. Energy management, gliding the week. Leaders leak energy. If you swoop down at 300 feet in panic, you drain the wing. If you stay aloof at 30,000 feet, the thermals pass you by. Design your week so you budget energy for the moment that matters most. When a decision frees people, when a seam gets fixed, when a landing locks in. Batch high altitude work in the morning. Intent, writing, communication that sets direction. Drop low in short, purposeful bursts. 1 floor, walk, 1 decision close, 1 runbook fix. Leave margin for final approach. Protect the last mile from new scope. After landing, truly land. Hold the retro, update the baseline, say, thank you, then step away for an hour. Your team learns you won't immediately yank them into the next climb. The approach pattern, downwind to base, to final, to flare. Borrow a simple landing pattern from the field. Downwind, farther out, higher altitude. Choose the runway, which outcome. Read the wind, constraints and risks, and commit. This is kickoff. Base, turning in. Remove surprises, interfaces, test data, approvals, on call. This is weeks 2 to 4. Final, aligned with the runway. Stabilize, freeze scope, run the soak, fix the seams. This is week 5. Flare, the last few seconds. Demo, retro, baseline, reset. This is week 6. If you keep trying to pick a runway while you're already on final, you'll eat dirt. Choose earlier, land cleaner, the go-around. Sometimes the approach isn't safe. Wind shear at the threshold, traffic on the runway, a sudden failure. You need a go-around procedure you can execute without shame. Who calls it driver, approver, and on what evidence? What safe altitude means in your context. Rollback, checkpoint, previous known. Good build. How you re-enter the pattern. New date, preserved scope, or revised scope with a change note. How you communicate it. 1 paragraph, no euphemisms. What will be different when we try again? A well-run go-around builds trust. A fake landing breaks it. 3 stories from the ridge. Story 1, the false horizon. We had a program grinding near a public milestone. At 30,000 feet, everything looked green. The status deck had progress bars and hero bullets. At 300 feet, the logs told a different story. Page 99, latency spiked under a specific jitter pattern. We were sinking while believing we had lift. We rewrote the update in 2 truths and 1 risk, added a watchdog as a stopgap, and set a go-around criterion for demo. Any 2 spikes over threshold would abort. We hit 1 spike in rehearsal, fixed the root cause in 2 days, and landed clean. The fix wasn't intensity, it was altitude discipline. Story 2, the steep bank. 2 days before a major test, a leader suggested swapping in a new protocol since we're in there anyway. That's a steep bank at low altitude. We used the approach pattern language and said no. We landed the current plan, scheduled the change as the first task in the next cycle, and wrote a change note that captured the decision. Momentum survived because we didn't spend it in the flare. Story 3, the tailwind you didn't earn. A team got lucky, an external dependency improved overnight, masking a fragile interface. The demo looked great. We used post-flight to ask, if the wind were neutral, would this still land? The answer was no. We added a guardrail and a soak at a worst-case input. We made luck less necessary. Tailwinds are gifts. Don't bake them into your glide ratio. How to coach your managers to glide. Explain the 2 altitudes and give them a schedule. New managers often pick 1 altitude and live there. Pair them with a peer who complements their natural stance. The strategist with the doer with the communicator. Run altitude reviews in 1 to 1 seconds. What did you do at 30,000 feet this week? Intent, constraints, communication. What did you do at 300 feet? Walk, fix, test, run book. Where did you bank too hard? Where did you commit too late? What will you do differently next week? Track their airspeed, how quickly they close decisions, how reliably they keep a weekly writing habit, how soon they escalate with choices. Praise the boring wins. Templates you can copy-paste. Altitude switch calendar. Repeat weekly. Monday 9 o'clock. Intent and constraints. Post clear 20 minutes per stream. Tuesday 10:30. Floor walk, sit with on-call test 30 minutes. Wednesday 11 o'clock. Decision close 1 doc 45 minutes. Thursday 2 o'clock. Risk review plus run book touch 30 minutes. Friday 9:30. Integration truth roll-up, 1 page, published by noon. Decision log entry, 5 lines. Decision, choose fallback A for ingest hangs. Date decider, September 2nd. Alex Systems. Options, a watchdog. B, low-level client swap. C, reduce scope. Y, A stabilizes quickly, B scheduled next cycle, C hurts user value. Review, revisit in 2 weeks after 3 end-to-end flights. Go no, go paragraph final approach. We go if soak runs 12 hours with 0 critical alerts and no ingest hangs. We no go if any 2 P99 spikes exceed 250 milliseconds, or if hang is observed without watchdog recovery. Decider, test conductor. If no go, roll back to build. 413, log incident, re-enter pattern for Tuesday. 2 truths and 1 risk. Example, truth 1, index optimization dropped P95 from 230 milliseconds to 180 milliseconds. Truth 2, 3 clean rehearsals end to end. Risk, vendor SDK hang at jitter greater than 200 milliseconds. If 3 hangs by Wednesday, we switch to watchdog. The cultural posture underneath, people can only glide if they trust the air. That means no punishment for early escalations, we reward them. Clear runways, who decides, how we decide, and where decisions live. Honest demos, no PowerPoint passes. Real retros, close last retros actions before you open new ones. Language that de-dramatizes risk and pressure. Use neutral, precise language. We're low on energy, let's climb before we turn. That's a steep bank, what's our altitude? We're reading a tailwind, what if it dies? Your team learns to think in trades, not blame, leading up and out. Sometimes the turbulence is your stakeholders, executives, partners, customers, asking for mid-final scope changes or declaring everything must be priority 1. Teach them the pattern. Share your Monday intent and your Friday truth. Give them the go, no go paragraph. Offer choices. Land thin now and build the rest next cycle versus go around and land everything next week. Translate their asks into altitude terms. If we bank now, the landing is at risk. Shall we go around? Most rational stakeholders, when given the physics plainly, will choose to land safely. Remote and hybrid gliding. You can't read the wind in the hallway anymore. Read it in the artifacts dashboards everyone actually opens. Written intents and weekly truths in one place with notifications. Decision logs linked in the channel topic. Short looms of here's what broke and how we fixed it to reduce meeting load. A standing risk room chat thread for the next 2 weeks, biggest risk, where anyone can post a sighting and the driver replies with the plan. The goal is the same. Short loops, visible decisions, honest landings. Why this saves energy. Operating at a single altitude creates waste. Constantly high means redeciding solved things and writing novel-length strategy that never meets ground. Constantly low means refixing the same seam and burning trust because no one knows why their pain matters. Switching with intent finds the sweet spot, enough strategy to aim, enough ground truth to correct, enough rhythm to repeat. And rhythm is what makes trust feel like infrastructure instead of mood. Your team learns that Monday has a plan, Tuesday has touch, Wednesday has decisions, Thursday has risk, hygiene, Friday tells the truth. When they trust the rhythm, they spend their energy building instead of decoding your leadership. A quick self-audit. Give yourself 8 scores from 1 to 5 this week. I wrote the Monday intent. I did 1 real floor walk. I closed 1 decision and logged it. I touched 1 run book and reduced 1 risk. I published 1 truth roll-up with numbers. I refused 1 steep bank at low altitude. I declared 1 go-around instead of pretending. I landed and actually flared. Demo, retro, baseline, before taking off again. If you score under 24, pick 2 habits and make them non-negotiable for 3 weeks. You'll feel the lift. Closing. I'll land this with the same promise I started with. I won't ask you to do anything that isn't copy-pastable into Monday. The hang glider perspective isn't poetry, it's a flight manual. Choose your runway. Read the air. Don't bank hard at low altitude. Commit to an approach you can land. Flare and stop flying. Then climb again on purpose. If this episode helped, follow Built to Trust wherever you listen. Hit subscribe and share it with a teammate who's juggling strategy and execution and could use a calmer glide path. Your ratings and reviews help more builders find the show and build with less turbulence. Next week, episode 7 is Safety Without Drama. We'll talk about just culture, stop-the-line norms, lightweight hazard mitigation loops, and incident tiers that keep people safe and ships shipping. We'll turn safety from a brake into a steering wheel. I'm Shomo Data. Thanks for listening.